Governor Jim Pillen sitting down with President Trump today. RFK Jr. also there, as well as Dr. Oz. This is for a discussion on rural health care. Nebraska will receive $218 million for the first year of the Rural Health Transformation Program. Nebraska received the 8th highest award for the program in the country. Two women accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from their grandmother, who owned the beloved South Omaha restaurant Malara's Italian, appeared in court today for the first time. Prosecutors allege the pair stole from the now deceased Katerina Malara with unauthorized credit card purchases and cashing 2 checks for a total of $300,000. Bond was set at $50,000 each.
I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security, so I may do that.
President Trump is considering placing tariffs on countries standing in the way of acquiring Greenland. Nebraska Congressman Don Bacon said today taking Greenland by force would likely end Trump's presidency. The man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk appearing in court today. Tyler Robinson's attorneys argued the judge should disqualify one of the prosecutors because the prosecutor's adult child attended the rally where Kirk was killed. Well, part of I-680 in Omaha may soon have a new name. Congressman Don Bacon introduced a bill to create the Hal Dobb Freeway. This would go from the I-80-680 interchange to the Missouri River at the Mormon Bridge. Dobbs served as both Omaha's mayor and Nebraska's District 2 representative in the 80s and 90s. And the Huskers will field a women's flag football team starting in 2028. Nebraska is the first Power 4 program to launch one. Athletic Director Troy Dannen says he hopes to have a coaching staff in place by the spring. Very excited for that.